Watching a child play and smile and laugh can change your whole day. Seeing them in their own imagination, coming up with their own world. It's our time as parents to cherish their innocence, their laughter, and support their creativity. It's up to us to care for our future generations, to be mindful, compassionate, and connected to themselves. Welcome everyone to the Conscious Father Show. This is Tom Hillgardner, and I'm joined with co-host Alex Hurd. And today we've got a very rich and exciting topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about media screen time for our children, how much screen time our children should get. Alex, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to getting into the subject. And before Rowan and Amron were born, Jen and I were those parents that were like, when we have kids, we're not going to just plop them in front of the TV as the babysitter and allow them just kind of hang out and sit there. It's like, we're going to engage them. We're always going to play with them. We're going to talk. Well, about a year into Rowan being born, she was plopped in front of the TV. And so I want to start by talking about, like, why do we do that, right? And quite frankly, for me, and we've been thinking about it a lot recently. Rowan's 7, Amron's going to be 5. They watch a fair amount of TV, and Rowan is on her iPad a lot. And so I started doing some inner thinking. Why does that happen? And quite frankly, if I'm going to be candid and I'm going to be authentic, partly it's because I don't want to be playing with them all the time, and I don't want to be hanging out with them all the time. I don't want to be at their beck and call all the time. And sometimes I'm selfish, and sometimes I'm lazy, and I know you and I have talked about that word lazy and what it means, right? But, and so sometimes the answer is, let's put the TV on. That's going to buy me the time to do the dishes. That's going to buy me the time to surf the internet. That's going to buy me the time to just not have to be doing something with them. and that's truth. That is the very candid, real, truthful answer. But then there's the other side of that is what is that doing to them?
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about this topic, I'm only 32 years old at the moment, but looking back on my childhood, I can think of more being outside, playing with my kid friends, being, hide and go seek, or basketball, or chipping golf balls in the backyard, or whatever it was. But I saw my life, and I can imagine you're about 10 years older than me, and looking at my parents' generation, the older generations talk about how sweet childhood was, the innocence of how kids could entertain themselves with a couple of sticks or a twig or something, right? Yeah. I did some research on this topic, and the research that I'm going to kind of share in the call today, and I know you've got a real life story that happened over the last week or so with your kids, and I want you to share with us in a minute. But the real life statistics and research that I'm going to share are things that I felt as I read them. It wasn't like I was just writing down stats. It was like, this is really actually was meaningful to me. 2 organizations, the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation and the American Academy of Pediatrics, both showed that the average child watches 7.5 hours of television, whether that's iPad, iPhone, TV, or whatever. 7.5 hours of television a day.
A day.
And that's the average. That's the average. So you have some kids that are watching a lot more. Of course, some kids that aren't watching as much.
I don't feel so bad.
So yeah, right. So another interesting thing that I saw was that it takes a child 4 seconds to process an image and make meaning out of it. So if you're sitting there watching television and your child is just walking through the living room to go get a toy, and there's a murder scene or there's some violent act going on. It takes that child 4 seconds to see the image, 1, 2, 3, 4, and have a whole meaning of processing. And for me, as a conscious father, I want to try and preserve the innocence of my children. There's so much going on in the world today of violence and chaos, and there's also a lot of good. I don't want to ignore the good that's going on as well. But there's so much of that going on that I want them to remember what it's like being in nature. I want them to remember what it's like going out and playing with their friends or their siblings, or being able to entertain themselves with something very little in home. I've got some more stats that I want to share, but I want to kick it over to you, Alex, and I want to hear what's going on. I haven't heard this story yet.
So, you know what? I'll see if the flow of the show goes in that direction. Like I'll talk about that story, but I just wanted to really touch upon what you just said.
Great.
We as a husband and wife and father and mother haven't given enough energy to what you just shared. The idea that it takes 4 seconds for a child to formulate, process that information, because there's a lot of times where Jen and I will be watching a television show, and just because we're interested in it, they come strolling in the room, but we're interested in the show. We don't turn it off, and we just say, "Oh, well, they'll be out of here in a second. They'll get what they need, and then they'll leave, and we can continue to watch the show." So I haven't thought about that enough. And yesterday morning, I was getting ready for work. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and this isn't the story I was going to share. This is just something that came to me. Amryn woke up. She was in the hallway, and she said, "I had a nightmare." So I brought her back to her bed. I said, "What was your nightmare about?" And she said, "Well, I was just trying to have a play date, and Amryn's 5, and I was just trying to have a play date, and these men came into our house, and I had to kill them." And granted, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But that coming from a 5-year-old, whether she knows what that really means.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yep.
But it comes from somewhere, and I'm willing to bet, because Jen and I don't talk about those things in front of the kids, but we certainly watch television shows where that is flashing up on the screen, whether they're walking through the room to get a toy or whether they're sitting on the couch and we're just too engaged in whatever we're watching to shut it off.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm actually not a big TV watcher myself. I have my own problems with my checking email and checking Facebook, which I will admit is something that I am working on being more mindful, and it does kick me in the rear sometimes because, sometimes I'll just go there and then I have this thought of, why are you going there? You just went there 15 seconds ago,
Yeah.
But I am a sports watcher like yourself. I love a good sports game. I love to turn on my football or my baseball or my basketball and, just check out and watch a good game, get into it. And it's amazing how even the commercials these days, you can get an NCIS commercial or one of these crime investigating commercials that are 30, 45 seconds long, and you've got dead people laying on the ground and guns pointed right into the camera. And it's amazing how you don't even need to necessarily be watching a violent show,
right,
kids to be able to pick this in. And I also wanted to throw in that, you have a 7 and a 5-year-old. I have a 2 and a almost 5-month-old. But this is also true for parents that have teenagers, kids that are older than what we're talking about right now. For where we are within our times, technology is picking up so fast. I did the research on this, Alex. Can you guess when the first iPad 1, when it was first released and how much it was?
I'm going to say 2006, $99.
Amazing. And I probably would have said the same thing. The very first iPad 1 that came out was April 3rd of 2010.
Holy crap.
6 years ago. And it was retailed, the smallest version, at $499, which meant that, lower income families and many middle class families weren't going to be able to afford the iPad. So just within a few short years where iPads are now given out randomly, you can sign a contract and get an iPad for free. Everyone's having, and I'm throwing into the category iPad with the Droids, the Samsung, the whole mobile devices.
Rowan's been issued an iPad through school. Each student in her school has an iPad that they take home from the school.
Wow.
One of them. Yeah.
Okay. And she's 7.
And she's 7 years old.
Okay. All right. So it's amazing how I'm not promoting that screen time is bad and all. But what I do believe is that too much screen time for my children, the images are coming at them so fast that it doesn't allow them to be in touch with the breath, with the body, whereas being, outside playing with kids or playing in the home, things are happening. And it's happening at a much quicker level than you and I are, which is one of the reasons why we sometimes want to sit our butt on the couch and not play with them, because things are happening so fast. But compared to media, where it's flashing constantly, what it does is it creates a disembodied, distracted mindset. And when you turn that mobile device off, the mind is still running at that same pace. And for me, Alex, whenever I go out, and I know you're the same way, it's one of the reasons why I love you. When I go out into the community, I like to engage people with eye contact and with a smile. Whether it's at the grocery store or just walking past somebody, while I'm walking the kids and they're walking their dogs or whatever it is. And there's so many people now that whether they're on their devices or they're not, they're so in their head, they're disconnected from their body, they're so in their head that it's challenging for them to even come to a sense of connection with life, where they smile.
But what I feel is really important to know is that with your kids at 5 months and 2 and then almost 5 and 7, who is the driver behind monitoring that? Who's the driver behind that? And it's me, it's you, it's Cher, it's Jen. We get to drive the bus regarding how much of something we allow. And sometimes it's because we want to give them that little opportunity at the end of the day to have a half hour of TV just to snuggle up and hang on the couch as a family. Sometimes it is a matter of our convenience because we don't feel like doing something with them right now, and we know it's gonna take the burden off of us. The other day I was sitting on the couch, and Rowan had something on TV, and I looked over at her. She didn't know I was looking at her. There was this almost lifeless gaze coming out of her eyes while she was watching television. Yep. The body was like melted into the couch. It was slumped. And there was almost nothing going on. I couldn't see any. I don't mean this to sound too extreme, but there was almost no life.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and we always talk about, in my day, in my day, in my day. I think it's a matter of opportunity, right? But we didn't have iPads when we were growing up. We didn't have the level of computers that they have now when we were growing up. We had different things. We had different outlets. But for me, it was the same thing. It was getting out after I did my homework and playing with all of my friends. Now there are just so many different options, but we drive the bus regarding how much we allow of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know my son, he loves Thomas the Train, and I want him to have a little bit of Thomas the Train. And I think that what you said earlier, a couple of points that you hit on, as a conscious parent, this is not about being, first of all, if you're listening to the show right now, forgive yourself. If you're feeling any kind of shame or any kind of guilt because you feel like you may have put your kid in front of the TV to distract them so that you can have time to yourself, whether it's productive time of laundry and dishes or whether it's just time for you to be able to not have, responsibility over your kids. Yeah. Forgive yourself. Give yourself a moment to say, okay, that happened. And today is a new day. Moving forward is a new moving forward. And it's amazing how children, whether they're teenagers, whether they're toddlers or anywhere in between, younger or older, when the TV or the media is turned off, they amazingly know how to occupy themselves.
Yeah.
They amazingly know how to occupy themselves. Isn't that true?
And so what I'm finding is Rowan, the oldest one, she is the one that, hey, can I go on my iPad? Can I go on my iPad? Can I put the TV show? Can I put the TV show? And it's become this like habitual mindset for her. But when you say, you know what, no, you can't use the iPad, you can't use television. Well, maybe later on when we're getting ready for bed, we'll sit down as a family and watch a little bit of television. After that initial them embracing and accepting that you've said no to their request, it takes about 1 to 2 to 3 minutes where they start entertaining themselves because there's no other option but to. She finds her artwork. She finds her math problems. She has all these different math problems that she likes to do. So if you give them the opportunity, but you got to stay strong. Sometimes I find you got to stick to it.
Yeah.
You fight the urge just to give into the convenience of it.
Absolutely. And, this topic has been on our minds all week because we've been knowing that this is something that you and I are going to talk about. And so one of the things that I love about having something on my mind like this, and what my hope is for viewers, is that this will plant a seed that later on in their week, that this will be on your mind. You'll be thinking about media time for your kids. And, as I was thinking about that, it really made me come to myself in a way of going, for me to bring children up into the world that are conscious, that are mindful, that are compassionate and caring for other human beings, and that when they go out into the world, they go out with that care. They don't go out with that distraction. They don't go out with that attention deficit disorder or whatever you want to classify it under. They go out as themselves, but in a given moment where an opportunity arises for them to extend a warm smile or a holding a door open or a hello, that they're present enough to be able to extend that. And what really came to me, Alex, was for me to be able to bring conscious children up, I need to engage with them. I need to be a more active role. And even in those moments where my inner voice is going, I just want to go check some emails, or I want to go do some laundry or anything but this. Sometimes, it's almost, I feel like cranking the lawnmower, just getting them going and engaging them with sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes can create the imagination in their mind and the world that they're creating that can last for them a couple of hours. Yeah.
Man, I obviously this is an important subject for both of us. And originally, like I was going to go down a couple of different avenues, but I realized that what we're talking about right now is enough, because we can revisit this, because the other things that I would like to share revolve around what we're talking about, but go down a different avenue. And it's okay to wait and share that later.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be back on this topic, because this is a topic that's loaded with stuff. Just as we close, I just want to say a couple of things for those parents that are really into counting calories. I myself am not, but this may land for you if you are. Research has shown that an hour of watching television equates to 167 calories of consumption.
Holy crap.
1 12-ounce Coca-Cola is 138. So you're basically drinking, without the sugar, you're basically, adding. So obesity and attention, all of these things can become realities of too much television. And
if that's the case, I should be a sumo wrestler.
It's been great, man. I'm so glad that you were able to share some of the things that you shared, and look forward to having more conversations around this, Alex.
We're going to need to, because there's some serious stuff out there that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely.
All right, Tom.